great example of the digital mechanics that Hex has. This hand only has a single resource in it here, but this ice is one of Hex's, uses their very powerful Fate Weave mechanic. So Fate Weave basically is like a super scry. It lets me stack my deck. So when I play this Blood Ice out, I get to choose between Seek Fortune and Seek Adventure, and I get to guarantee that I'm going to draw another resource next turn, so it's going to stack a random resource in my deck to the top of the deck. And then once I get that second resource, I'll be able to play this Change Course, which is a cantrip that looks at 3 cards, and it puts 1 into my hand and then discards the rest. You can see here, my opponent and I have different portraits here, but these portraits aren't just cosmetic. And actually, my ice found another ice, so this ice is going to guarantee hit my 3rd resource drop. You'll notice my opponent and I have different starting health totals. And what starting health totals, so the starting health totals are a way to balance the different champions. The champions kind of give you a little bit of a heads up as to like what style of deck your opponent might be playing. Where do you recommend looking up Hex cards for us noobs? Hex.tcgbrowser.com has a search engine. It's kind of like the gatherer of Hex, but the bot in chat will also, so like if you type !Runebind in chat here, it'll show you what the card does. Our champions also let us do different things. So my champion here says for 3 charges, I get to draw a card and then discard a card. So basically, this champion helps enable the Reanimator strategy in my deck. It lets me loot the fatties that I draw that I would much rather cheat into play with my Mordrom's Gift. Puts any troop from my discard pile back into play. So I don't have to like get them into the graveyard through some other discard pile through some other means, because my champion power allows me to do that. My opponent's champion power is one that's typically for more aggressive champion. For 4 charges, it gives one of their troops +3/+3 and crush until end of turn. So basically, for every 4 resources my opponent plays, they're able to get that bonus. Opponent plays Poppy Cakes. Target troop they control gets +2/+2 and Steadfast. So one of the things to note in here, this card doesn't say until end of turn. So my opponent's troop is going to get this +2/+2 bonus permanently. How do you get a charge? Every time you play a resource, almost every resource in Hex gives you a charge. There's also some other cards in the game that say gain a certain number of charges, but in general, you gain charges by making your resource drops. That's kind of unfortunate. We did miss a resource drop here, it looks like. Well, I guess we gotta draw next turn. I'm gonna take this Transmogrifade. This is one of my ways to interact with my opponent. So what it does is, this is a quick action. You can see here, I played my Change Course, which is a quick action, on my opponent's end of turn. So Hex has a priority system and quick cards you can play when it's not your turn. Sweet, we hit an ice here. I'm going to go ahead and stack a non-resource on top of my deck. At this point, I'm looking for a fatty to put into my discard pile, so that way I can reanimate it with one of these Mordrom's Gifts. I'll play my draw 2. I'm just going to go ahead and pass the turn. My champion power, you can see it lit up here. I'm not going to activate it just yet because, again, I want to wait until I have a troop in my hand that I want to discard, so that way I can guarantee to get it into my bin for this Mordrom's Gift. Yeah, effectively the ice resources come into play tapped, or they're a slow shard. You don't get to use the resource that they provide the turn you play them. And there is one of my very powerful fatties. So this is a 5/5 for 7 with Flight. Then when it comes into play, you pick a number, and it voids every card of that number. So I'm going to go ahead and activate my champion power to loot here. Draw a card, discard this Eternal Seeker. Mordrom's Gift back my Eternal Seeker. And this guy gets bigger, right? Yeah, it gives itself another Thorn Pups and Rose Kittens bonus. So I'm going to go ahead and pick 3 and void their Thorn Puppy. One of the things that's nice about this Eternal Seeker is that this card's shardless. There's no threshold requirement here, so I can just play this for 6 or 7 resources if I draw it in the later game when I've drawn more resources. My opponent might hit their champion power here and crash through with this Young Seer, because it's a 6/7. This will be able to attack through my Eternal Seeker. Ooh, that will also attack through another Poppy Cakes, kicks this up to a 5/6. So these permanent modifiers on my opponent's card, I can actually get ooh. Well, that's actually really good for us. So my opponent's playing Battle of Destiny, which lets their troop deal damage equal to its power to my guy. And I have another Mordrom's Gift here in my hand. So they're going to kill this, and I'm going to get to Mordrom's Gift it back into play again next turn and wipe out both their Young Seers because they are... Okay, so you can see here, this guy, even though this is the same card, it has a -1 cost here. It didn't cost my opponent any resources to play it. And the reason for this is, the Prophecy mechanic here modifies the cost of the next troop in their deck. So when they played this Young Seer out, this other Young Seer was in their deck, and it got its cost modified down. That being said, I can pick one and get rid of this 5/6 one, which is good for us. Let's get rid of that one. Get it out of here. Yep. And a pretty good spot here. I'm going to go ahead and play this Heart's Whisper, and this Fate Weaves and then draws 2 cards, and I kind of want to hit another resource here, so I'm going to go ahead and Fate Weave a resource to the top of my deck, so I guaranteed it my 5th one here. My opponent disconnected. I don't believe you can Eternal Seeker for negative numbers. I'm not actually sure offhand. Choose a number. And imagine a negative's a number? Maybe? I'm actually not sure. Yeah, Fate Weave is very subtly powerful. It's one of those things where, like, it's not complicated or extreme random, but it's like the subtle thing that'd be very clunky and difficult to do in paper. You can't Seeker below 0. Okay, that's good to know. So Seek Fortune here, draw 2 cards. And it looks like I'm going to have to discard here. I'll just spin this Arcane Focus for now. I've got 2 Runebinds and a Transmogrifade. I want to interact with my opponent's cards. I can, like, block pretty freely here. If they have something that blows me out of my block, I can Runebind or Transmogrifade their thing. Their champion power is also pretty bad against my Runebinds and my Transmogrifades because they interact with their cards at quick speed. Yep, so they're turning this into a 7/7. I'm going to go ahead and block this, kind of bait them into trying to do something with it. I'm going to Runebind their thing here. And Runebind kind of puts it into the stasis state off to the side here. And this card will stay as this constant until my opponent draws a resource. We don't have an official release date for Heart of Winter yet, but I imagine it will release sometime, what's the word I'm searching for? Sometime next week after the CCS. They said the Cosmic Crown Showdown this weekend is going to be the current format, so I'd imagine it's going to release sometime after that. So Sorcerous Sculpting here, this is a card we passed up earlier. It creates a copy of one of my troops. So basically, we just create more copies of our Eternal Seeker and just keep voiding all of our opponent's stuff with this deck. And I'm good to go. Go ahead and change course here. Take another Runebind, that's fine. Go ahead and Sorcerous Sculpting this, make a copy of it. He comes into play, I pick 3 and get rid of their Thorn Pup. Now I can start attacking with this guy. Spin this Coralcove Witch. Yeah, our Evasive Threats in the Air here is going to take over the game here, it looks like. Opponent's deck likely, so this is another one of our fatty Reanimator targets. We can't actually play this card with just resources. Opponent conceded the match. So the Constructed Ladder and Hex is completely free to play on. So sometimes if someone decides they don't really want to play against your deck, they can quit after a game. It doesn't cost them anything. That doesn't happen too often, so the Ladder season and Hex should just reset. So once you get up into the higher levels like Plat 1, Plat 2, and Cosmic, people really aren't conceding because they care about their ranking if they're still playing. But our opponent was only in the gold division, and they probably decided they could find an easier match than our Reanimator deck, so they packed it in. How do you get platinum without buying it? You can get platinum from other players. You can there are players that buy the gold that you earn from the free-to-play aspect of the game for platinum, because you can only buy certain things in the game with gold. A lot of cosmetic items are purchased through gold. And you can't buy gold outright, so people have to use their platinum to buy gold from players. This hand's fine. So, opponent champion here for 4 charges returns a troop with cost 2 or less from their discard pile to their hand. Usually this is played in more aggressive decks. And this hand's got 2 Transmogrifades and a Coralcove Witch. So Coralcove Witch is a quick troop that's a 2/4. When she comes into play, she does one of 2 effects. Either she makes a card in her hand permanently cost 2 less, or she can give one of her other troops in play Spell Shield. So Witch is kind of a combo with Eternal Seeker, where you can use Coralcove Witch to come into play and make your Eternal Seeker cheaper, and then play Eternal Seeker on turn 5. Yeah, unfortunately, the Stream Decker doesn't disable itself yet when you change games. That's one of the things that they're going to be updating soon. And I don't manually toggle it on and off because it's too much extra stuff going on. Got enough going on as is while I stream, so feel free to drag Stream Decker to a corner where it won't bother you. Yep, the Steam client is functionally the exact same as downloading it from the website. It's just you're using the Steam for the installer instead of their custom installer. I'm actually playing through Steam right now. We're playing a Diamond Wild deck, it looks like. Has a slow-ish start. That'll be good for our hand. Arch Whisper is a perfect draw here. Gives us something to do on our turn 3 here. I have my 4th resource already, so I'm going to Fate Weave a non-resource with this, so we guaranteed at least 1 new piece of action. Sweet. We got Mordrom's Gifts in our hand, so we can actually just turn for the Seeker if we want. I might just Witch the Seeker, though. Sacred Stance. Okay, so this card says whenever they conscript a troop, it gives all of their troops they control in their hand +1/+1 permanently. And this card is a 1/1 that when it comes to play, it conscripts a troop. So conscript, this is a little bit of RNG. It generates a random underworld troop of cost 4. So you've got like a range of different troops you can get, but you don't know exactly what you're going to get with the conscript mechanic. Alright, well now that I have a second Eternal Seeker, I'm going to go ahead and loot here. Ditch that. Gift the Seeker back into play. I'm going to go ahead and void their Sacred Stance since it powers up all their troops. They can get out of control kind of quickly. See if they have a removal spell for the Seeker. They do have a Decree of Banishing. Okay. And so this comes into play, and it's going to void this, but this card just sits on the table here, which means when my second Eternal Seeker comes down, it can void 2 drops, and then it'll be able to void this Decree of Banishing. I'm going to focus here, try and fight a non-slow shard. Tilt. This card's so much worse than... so much worse than Guidance. Let's change course for a resource. Oh geez, that's a Chronodaemon. Huh. Now I'm just gonna take the resource. I could have taken the Mordrom's Gift there. Chronodaemon's another one of our fatties. I would probably just play straight teamer if I was playing standard to win. We're actually gonna play some standard tomorrow morning. Some Magic standard tomorrow morning. To see what kind of 4-drop they generated here, probably. Battle prep, okay. So in 2 turns, we'll be able to Seeker. So next turn, we'll Coralcove Witch inside of combat and probably ambush one of their troops that attacks. And the Coralcove Witch will make this cost 5, and we'll be able to play that next turn guaranteed, even if we miss on a resource drop. Yep, sure. They're going to have a lot of 1-drops here, which is going to be good for us, because this Eternal Seeker is going to get this other Eternal Seeker back, which means that this Seeker is going to be able to avoid all of their 1-drops, which will be pretty bad for them. So choose to give a card in my hand -2. And again, they don't know which card I'm making cheaper in my hand until I play it out. And now my Coralcove Witch can gobble this up inside of combat. Here's a 1-drop. And the drip. Would not be surprised if the Seeker prompts a concession. This Seeker's going to come into play and void the 2s, which is going to give me my other Seeker back. Which is going to come into play, is going to name 1s. Just play my 5/5, kill your entire board, get my other 5/5 back. Seems okay. Had worse turns. Cherry Street. Not bare feet. We were both 18 and it felt so right. Sleeping all day, staying up all. Really care about this 2/3. Let's go ahead and loot here, because I can't actually play these Chronodaemons because I don't make diamond in my deck, so just only thing we have to do is discard them. Opponent is just stone dead in 2 here in the air. And run forever. Ancestral Ambush. Alright, so this gives them something that's blocking automatically? Sure. Gobble that right up. Everywhere I go, it's everything I see. That you're here tonight. When you conscript a troop, it gets the socketed powers of this. So, socketed cards are customizable cards. So this card is customized with the Fate Weave mechanic. So the customization that you can put in gems, it's fan art. I'm creating fan art here by singing, which is legal and allowed, I promise. Please don't stone me. I know it's legal. Oh, yeah. Change course. Oh, look, Sorcerous Sculpting. What if I Sorcerous Sculpting this guy? Get rid of your 3-drops. Every deck is losing a couple of things with rotation coming up. Turbo PA will take the biggest hit because that's going to lose Cyclone Shaper. There will probably be some kind of Sapphire Diamond Psychic Ascension deck, but it won't be a combo deck like Turbo PA is a combo deck. The Diamond Ruby Ardent deck isn't going to lose a ton. It's only going to lose the cobblestones mostly, so its resource base will be a little bit different. This deck actually doesn't lose much at all. It's going to lose Transmogrifade and Arcane Focus, but we can really easily replace Arcane Focus with something like Theorize, and Transmog could be a couple different things. Yeah, this hand's pretty good. It needs a blood threshold to play this Mordrom's Gift, but we've got Transmog, Runebind, and we're potentially going to have a turn 4 Seeker lined up here. Sweet. And even if we brick on blood now with that Fate Weave, we have a Coralcove Witch lined up to make our Seeker cheaper and just play it on 5 if we have all Sapphires. Yeah, Kaigu's going to lose a ton. Kaigu itself rotates out. The Blood Wild decks will look very different. Like, the Blood Wild decks have kind of waffled between, like, whether or not they want to be Deathcry or, like, mid-range value, and they'll be, like, firmly in the Deathcry camp with Kaigu leaving, I think, and some of the cards that it's losing. Need to define a battle board for this deck after this match. Battle board. This battle board is so boring and dry. Salagamage. Yeah, the Furry deck's a lot of fun. It's a little bit soft for the Ardent deck, but in general it's pretty reasonable. Still just Fate Weaving resources here. It looks like we're what I said could happen. We just haven't found a blood threshold for this is coming up, so probably just going to play the Coralcove Witch next turn and then play the Eternal Seeker on 5 the turn after. Our first 5 resources lined up here. Hey, finally a blood. Okay, with hitting a blood here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit my champion power and just put this Seeker into play so I don't take damage from this readying. I wonder if I should wait a turn on this. If I wait a turn on it, I could protect it with this Runebind, which is kind of appealing. Or Pride's Fall or something here. Nature's Reigns, yep. Okay. I guess I couldn't have protected it from that. Three, 2, that prophecies when it comes into play. The next action the deck gets when you play this copy it. Be reasonable. We are a little flooded here. That being said, I'm only 1 resource charge away here from my next champion power, so I'm going to get to flash this Coralcove Witch into ambush this 3-2, and then next turn we can draw, discard, and cycle through one of these resources, hopefully find some action. That's pretty good, so this is going to make this guy have plus power. I'm going to transmog this, see what it turns into here. Transmog gets rid of that modifier from it. Oh, tilt. It's flight, so I can't block it anymore. It's unfortunate. Well, I guess I'm just going to hold on to the witch for now. Play this resource out. I'm going to go ahead and hit this now because I'm really kind of looking for something to do here. And another resource. We're not dying that quickly to this 2-1 in the air. Coralcove Witch will be able to flash in and ambush this Battlefield Ironsmith here, which is nice for us. It's pretty good. Conscripted a Green Paw Emancipator. This is not playing Crowbone. So basically we kind of started with Yassi's Crowbone-esque shell and then turned it into just a more dedicated, fair Reanimator deck. That's fine. Our 2 witches on the ground are going to keep this Green Paw at bay pretty nicely. So Sculpting will create a copy of this witch for us, and she creates a random action for us. And actually, go ahead and reduce the cost of the Suffocate she created. So 2-4 created a counterspell. It's pretty good. Skip attacks there, so we just go ahead and attack in here. Sure, this can only power up Ardent troops, right? Yeah, so they can power up this Dorko. Which is okay, it only brings it up to 7 though, right? So I could still double block here and then trade 1 witch for the Green Paw, basically. And double here. 6, go down to 8. Things are not looking good for our hero here. I might have to Runebind this Jet Cadet, honestly. Yeah, I think if they ship with everything here, I'm actually going to Runebind this Jet Cadet. Free of banishing. I'll suffocate that. I need but 2-4 on defense here. Will any of the decks in your budget constructed article get hit by rotation? Yeah, the Furiko deck, actually the cheapest one in there, is going to lose quite a few important cards with rotation. The other two are pretty safe. They don't lose anything critical. The Ardent deck loses actual nothing, and the Sockets deck only loses Radiant Physician. Alright, Arcane Focus, find me some candy. Alright. Could be anything, even another Arcane Focus. Sweet. Alright, Sorcerous Sculpting. Make a copy of this one. We will definitely have other things, other cheaper budget decks when once we get a better feel for what the new format looks like. We don't really know what the new set is going to look like just yet. They're my 2/4s. They are on defense. And again, just like, it's one of the reasons why Coralcove Witch is kind of great in this deck. She just like gums up the ground like this while we wait for our other better cards to come to play. Both of these get something -3, right? Yep. Yeah, definitely. I keep that article up to date every time a new set comes out or like a format change happens. That's really good. They conscripted a thing that makes the Valorant, or things that's good when it becomes Valorous. Thankfully, this thing generated two pretty good pieces of removal here. They're going to bring back another 2-drop from their discard pile here. Back to the Ironsmith, sure. Probably going to power up this since it flies. Here I'm playing Standard or playing the Eternal format. So, Hex is still a newer game, so they only have this new set released that's just the stones, right? They have almost everything they have costs 1. Just bring back this Eternal Seeker, avoid all your 1-drops. Oops. Alright, attack with this. Sorry, anywho, Hex is a newer game, so their Eternal format is still kind of developing, so it doesn't have as much support as Standard does. So if you're looking to play Hex on the regular Standard, it's definitely the format you should be more interested in getting into. The free-to-play constructed ladder is currently Standard only. The Immortal tournament has tournaments that happen twice a week for it currently, and then they have a larger tournament that has pretty significant prizes that happens every other month for the Immortal tournaments. There's an unranked queue for the Immortal tournaments that you can play as well, but because it's unranked, it doesn't really give any prizes. If you're someone who's a competitive player like myself, you're someone that's still hanging out for the Magic stream, Hex is a pretty good competitive scene. They have 2 $1,000 cash tournaments that happen every single weekend. I don't know. I didn't really want Dreadlings in my discard pile. I think I'd rather have a Witch in there. Snap this off, right? Nice, Jin. Congrats and condolences. Finals of the Clash then, right? And kill this Storko. I'm going to be conservative and leave this back on defense. There's no reason for me to let them get attacks in here. I've got all these Runebinds, so just hang out here. Now, the tournaments hosted in the games like leagues. The scheduled tournaments are probably closer to what Magic Online dailies used to be. You play them during a set amount of time. Things like the draft tournaments that you play on demand are closer to leagues, where you enter, you draft, and then you kind of play your matches as your time permits. Those are kind of closer to a league. If they attack with everything here, I'm happy to eat their 3/1 and take 3 points of damage here, I think. And the big cash tournaments that happen on the weekends, those are similar to just like playing in a large paper Magic tournament. They have Swiss rounds based on the number of people playing, etc., etc. Oh, that's pretty sweet. We drew a concuss. Or we generated a concuss. We'll play this, make my opponent discard a card and take a damage. They got a little punish there for holding their Sacred Stance out. This game has been a really good example of like how good this deck is at grinding. Hey, you're a crazy bitch, but you fuck so good I'm on top of it when I dream. Stretches all down my back, you take it right on, hey. So this turn's going to be a really good example of how powerful this Runebind card is in this deck. So I'm going to attack with this Eternal Seeker. And so Runebind puts any card on the chain or in play into kind of a stasis state. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to Runebind my Eternal Seeker. Then I'm going to use this Blood Ice to Fate Weave to guarantee there's a resource on top of my deck. And then I'm going to use my Champion Power here to draw a card and discard a card. So this resource enters my hand, which re-triggers playing this Eternal Seeker out, which lets me void everything that costs 2 here. So got to get an attack in, stasis state my thing, and then flip it out and flip it back in. Yep, Dreamcall can also get me a resource, that's correct. So in fact, I'm going to run back the Runebind trickery here by Runebinding this at end of turn, and then Dreamcalling for some amount here. So Dreamcall creates 5 different random cards, and if I pay 5 for X, I get to take all of them, which includes getting a resource, which means this flips back off again. Get rid of your 4-drop. Zenthos Malice actually lets me sacrifice the spider, that's funny. So we're behind for a little bit of this game, but it looks like we're pitching right back up in here. A little bit of a miss sequencing. This gets a bonus when I gain a charge, right? Yeah, so if I would have played this out before I played my resource, this would be a 4/4 right now. And the rating's basically on the wall at this point. My opponent is pretty far behind. Seeker's just kind of done what Seeker does and buried them. This lets me sacrifice the spider to gain 2 health and draw a card. Good loot here, see what we get. Any interesting troops might have been, right? Back in for 9 here. They'll be dead to my Eternal Seeker next turn. Suffocate and Runebind up here to make sure that they stay dead. Hey, got him. I hit Platinum 2 on the ladder, got 10,000 gold. Play one more match with the Reanimator deck, then we're going to go ahead and call it a night. It's almost midnight here again, and I was up late last night. I want to get some sleep tonight. They're hot, playing Runner. Okay. Runner's usually a blood control deck. A lot of Coralcove Witches. Try and avoid getting our Coralcove Witches hero fall in this game. And Fate Weave a resource to the top so we can guarantee to hit 3 and 3 this game. It's possible this hand's a redraw because that has 3 Coralcove Witches in it against a hero fall deck. It's also possible I can just wait until I have 6 resources to play these. I wonder what their win condition is. So Renner, for 5 charges, lets them draw the top card of our deck into their hand, and it changes it into thresholds that they can play. It's not going to do a whole lot against us. Heart's Whisper is fantastic. I think that's better than grabbing the Mordrom's Gift here, because I would like to... I have the Witches to make my Eternal Seeker cheaper down the line, and Heart's Whisper guarantees that I'm going to hit my 4th resource on time, which is pretty important with this handful of 4-drops. Actually, when I put the first Witch into play, she can give herself Spell Shield, right? Oh, they can respond to that by killing her, though, right? I hit a Runebind here. So maybe I'll wait until 5 to play the Witch so I can play her and then Runebind her if they go to Hero Fall her. Seem unreasonable. Blood Ruby, interesting. So something of a brew here. Cockatrice. Pretty good. Alright, well, I'll discard these extra witches so I don't have to worry about getting Hero Falled. Deal. Play this and best turn. Cockatrice is kind of a beating. An uncounterable discard too. These do I want to make cheaper. The Seeker. Get to have a Strangler Hero Fall here. Yep. So I played this before they had blocks, and then they killed my card before I got to blockers as well. I'm gonna go to 15 here. So because I have all these Runebinds, I want to protect my Eternal Seeker as best I can. So I'm going to Fate Weave another resource to the top of my deck. So that way next turn, hopefully if it's a non-slow shard, I can play the Eternal Seeker while holding Runebind up. So that way if they go to kill my Eternal Seeker, I can protect it. 3Q15WY with the brand new Twitch Prime subscription. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I forgot to put a battle board on. I even wrote myself a note. Alright, let's play my Seeker out here. Void their 2-drop. They've missed the resource drops. That means they have a handful of action here. So probably Hero Falls and Strangles and stuff like that. Let's Runebind my thing. This only destroys a troop, so when my card turns into the Mysterious Rune, it's no longer a legal target for that Hero Fall. It's going to pass the turn for now. They really can't play anything out while the Seeker's under the rune, because if they play something out, the Seeker's going to flip out and then void it at some point. Right. They hit a resource drop, and it's an ice that's going to guarantee their next resource drop as well. Again, I'm being kind of conservative in my champion power because I want to save it until I have something like Chronodaemon that I want to discard. I don't really need another resource at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and bin that. Fate Weave a non-resource to the top of my deck here. Yeah, seems fine. And again, if they go to Hero Fall or kill my Eternal Seeker again this turn, I'm going to Runebind it again. Oh, I should have put a resource on top of my deck because they could champ power. Again, they did something that went to deal damage to a troop, and it wasn't a troop, so... They Fate Weaved a non-resource. Interesting. Sculpting's pretty good. It's okay, it's a little bit weak against removal. I have Runebind to insulate from that a little bit. I'm actually just going to hold on to this for now. Because again, they're going to put something into play, and this lets me kind of do this on demand. Also, they have 8 cards in their hand now because they were greedy and didn't Fate Weave a resource, so hopefully they just have to move the discard. Okay, see what I get. I'm going to take this resource for the explicit purpose of flipping this back out. And then I'm just going to go ahead and Sorcerous Sculpting this now. They don't have another thing that I want to get rid of, but I just want 2 5/5s in play, I think. some eggs in your deck. Go ahead. And again, I have a Runebind here to protect one of these if they go to kill it. And they're at 24, so like 10 power worth of flyers is going to kill them pretty quickly. Oh, yeah, that's smart, Yessie. Putting 3 eggs in their deck isn't particularly good. One concedes. Not really sure what we want to do. I guess if I get 2 Aegiluses out, they probably can't win the game, right? It's just like they're blood ruby and Aegiluses. So this card is an 8/8 that makes you and all of your other cards invincible. So if you have 2 of these out, they make each other invincible. Confounding Ire seems okay. Verdict seems okay. Show them a couple of Chronodaemons. So sculpting is good with the Aegilus for the purposes of making more of them, but it's actually a little bit medium with their spot removal. Maybe I don't want all these verdicts in my deck. I actually don't know what troops they have, so maybe I don't want these transmogs either. The Underworld Officers and the Rizzix are our medium minus plan of beating Turbo PA. Basically, we just want to like put a bunch of unblockable poopers into play and like hope to race them, because they can't gum up the board against the unblockable troops. And it's like, it doesn't make the matchup good, but it takes it from like completely miserable to winnable, it feels like. If you play 1 on 3 and you play a second 1 on 4, you're Sorcerous Sculpting on 4, it's fine. It was the best result that we had in a bad matchup. I don't think it makes the matchup good, but I think it makes it manageable a non-zero amount of the time. The Tribunal Magistrates don't actually pressure them is the problem. I want to actually just kill our opponent. Like, the Tribunal Magistrates are good when they're backed up like with pressure or a clock, but this deck doesn't really have pressure or a clock, so you need to like actually kill them. So like, we tried Tribunal Magistrates, we tried Verdict of the Ancient Kings, we tried a bunch of different stuff, and the one that seemed the thing that seemed to suck the least was what we did with the unblockables. I still don't think it's good, but I think it's less bad than the alternatives. To set the bar exceedingly low. The only matchup we've really found so far that feels pretty bad for this deck is the Turbo PA matchup. This deck's really good against all these other decks that play to the board. That's fine, right? You can avoid my Crypt on command, but not really worried about that. We'll just prioritize not drawing Mordrom's Gifts. Huh. We'll play it, so I'll just put another resource on top of my deck for now. Yeah, the Librarian just wasn't impressive. The problem is the Turbo PA deck doesn't have any cards in it that are really good against itself, right? It's one of the reasons why the Turbo PA mirror is kind of awkward. So, like, I wasn't really impressed with that plan. Am I just putting another resource on top of my deck here? I think I am. I want to just hit all my shard drops at this point. Or just, like, try and beat them down with Coralcove Witch. And now, something that I feel like a lot of players don't do enough of here is you can see my opponent could potentially be missing a resource dropping in here. I want to play this Witch out, but if my opponent goes to move to hand size, I'm just going to let them move to hand size. Yeah, so like, I'm not going to play this Witch out, because playing this Witch out gives my opponent the opportunity to play a piece of removal out of their hand, which, if they're able to play a piece of removal out of their hand, they're not going to have to discard to hand size here, which means I'm not gaining card advantage by them having to discard to hand size. And again, if they're breaking again here, I'm going to go ahead and change course looking for a resource, but you just keep right on moving to hand size, buddy. We're riposting my change course. Okay, sure. I guess they have to discard that to hand size, so they got to play a card, but they got a card out of me too. Oh, they can change course for... They can change course for a resource here. Okay. Maybe I should have runebound their riposte. Yeah, maybe I should have runebound their riposte there. Oh, you know what? I should have played Witch there at the end, right? Because it would have, they were tapped out. Yeah, that's what should have happened. Yeah, wrapping it up for the evening. This will be our last match. It's late here. Change course. We have another riposte. I'm gonna runebind this. So runebind puts us in a stasis state, which is awkward for them because like they basically just don't get this card back then later. Stop it. And for the multiple things, might as well be multiple Sorcerous Sculptings. And they drew a resource because both of those disappeared. Journey to Nowhere. Nope. That right on out of here. This lets them draw a card off our deck every turn, which is not good for us. Take a one-time hit there, but every turn is a no-go. Alright, another copy of Confounding Ire. I'm gonna play this out and just make my sculpting cheaper here, I think, and then sculpting. And then the sculpting will make the Confounding Ire cheaper. I'm just gonna put another witch into play. Now we have just a free counter target blood thing. That's fine. Rotation has not happened yet. The new set will probably release next week, likely Tuesday. I'm not sculpting this again. They have another piece of removal. I have a Confounding Ire for it. Get out of here. They'll generate 2 random actions. Card in my hand cheaper. Polymorphic Army cheaper. This card will be pretty scary. X is -1, so that means I only need to pay 9 for that. Loot here. So this turns all of our troops into a random troop of cost X, which the only troop of cost X at 10 is Walking Calamity, which is very big and scary for our opponent. Oh, we could also just do like 9 to get like Mastodons or Aegiluses potentially. Non-slow shard here would be hot. We've got 2 shots at it. Speaking of Aegilus, let's loot here. Resource here. Perfect, and we found a Seeker, so Seeker can get rid of these things that they have in play. I'm going to stack a resource on top of my deck, so that way when my opponent draws the top card of my deck next turn, they get a resource from it. Unfortunate, they get to kill one of my things here. Yep. We should have transmogged that. Well, let's curse their dome here. I'm Eternal Seeker here. And because they didn't blow that in response, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that up. Yeah, kind of. It would have taken speed off of it though. I'm just gonna Fate Weave another resource to the top of my deck here. Pass the turn now. I can trade this inside of combat and then Mordrom's Gift it back into play. Assuming they don't hit a anything to mess that up, like a Gravebane Vial. I have an Aegilus in here too. Airfall, yep, that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and chump block here. Just gonna do both of these now. Probably could have done these in the other order, right? Because my thing's invincible. Let's loot this. My sequencing this turn's been a hot mess. And put a non-resource on top of my deck here. Okay, have a hero fall. Okay. Aegilus is gone. I guess I'm kind of running on empty here, right? Wow, that's really good. Okay, so I got pretty supremely punished for not waiting on the Aegilus. I think I'm going to transmog this. Hope they don't get Windsinger. For troop controls, dealt damage, draw a card. That's pretty good. Take speed off of it at least, though, which is what I wanted to do. I really feel like I mismanaged my resources a bit this game. Bringing the Aegilus back was probably wrong. Right? Well. So that draw, like, kinda punishes me for transmogging there. That's fair. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm just clicking to click, which is not good. Can't block for free because they get to draw a card. I think I'd rather take 4 than let them draw a card. I'll play that out, and then I'm passing the turn and we're on chump blocking, did removal. Yeah, really mismanaged the crap out of this game. Some bad chump blocks, some bad... Oh, they drew one of my Aegiluses. That makes sense. Alright. 10 out of 10 could have avoided most of the bad things that happened to that game. I guess I should have known. I thought I boarded in 3 Aegiluses, and the only hero fell 1 out of our decks. That makes sense. Guarantee resource on top of our deck here, and then we'll start digging for stuff to do with these. I should have just assumed my opponent could never beat Walking Calamity and just have made Calamities. Ire is fine. Witch is fine, because this is going to guarantee us our 4th shard. The inconspicuous double ruby that signifies... What's the word I'm searching for? Ronald Riposte. Whenever I'm supposed to board out my transmogs, yeah, probably, right? I probably should have boarded in some Verdicts of the Ancient Kings. Just gonna do this. Let's get my witch beat on. This free again. Like if they have Pyre, why is that in their deck? Like just for my Coralcove Witches? It's exactly from. I guess they could Pyre Strike plus trade in combat to avoid something, so I can't reanimate it again. And I put a resource on top of my deck because not only did I not mind drawing one, but their champion power is up next turn, so they got to draw a resource off my deck. I'm just gonna sit on my champion power for now, like not in a rush to do anything with it. I don't actually care about that, right? Literally just gonna play this and void their thing. This card seems really mediocre against the Seeker decks. Alright, so they kill my thing, they crack me for 5, I Mordrom's Gift, kill their thing. Build back and forth. Loot. It only voids other cards at the same cost, so that goes away. Hero Fall. I'm gonna change course, see if we need a Runebind. And now this gives us a window to Sorcerous Sculpting this for free, which again just puts 2 5/5s into play, which is good for us. Sweet. Crackling Torment. Like when the random action generates a playable. They give us plenty of information here. 2 Journeys, a Strangle, and a Cockatrice. I guess I just take this, right? I don't really care about the rest of these. So hopefully we hit a Runebind here. Or Sorcerous Sculpting. There's a Runebind. I'm just going to smash them with both of these. I think they're going to block since they have the Strangle in their hand. I'm going to Runebind this one and then loot. Sweet. Add a resource. That flips this guy back out. Lets me void their journey. I'll sit on that for now. Oh, you know what? I should have... Maybe I should play that out because they have Cockatrice in their deck. But I guess if they play Cockatrice out here, I really don't care, right? The last two cards are Strangle plus the other thing, and it got a Withering Gaze out of their hand. Baby. Huh. Huh. Yeah, I'm just gonna void. Doesn't want to play anymore. These are my seekers. I messed up that second game pretty badly, I think, so... This deck's really powerful and it grinds pretty well. I like this deck a lot. Feels, like I said, feels really good against everything that's not PA. Waffle linked it earlier, but there's an article on battleshopper.com talking about all the details of this deck. Burgle and I tuned this deck starting with a Yassi shell, so... At any rate, they have Strangle and Pyre Strike in. Yeah, it seems real loose. Maybe their reserves just doesn't have cards for this type of matchup. This deck's not super popular as of yet. So, at any rate, it is a little bit after midnight now, so I'm going to go ahead and head to sleep. Thank you everyone for watching. I will catch all of y'all on later live back again in the morning. Peace, folks.